Hello, everyone. Hello, and good morning to all of you. Before we start, can everyone turn on their cam so therefore I could see all of your lovely faces today? Please do turn on your cam because it feels lonely if I am the only one that turned on my cam. Okay, thank you so much. And yeah, well, first, before we officially start, I just want to say I hope that you guys are well. I hope that everyone is okay, healthy, and happy. And Happy New Year to all of us. So, on this brand new day, we're going to attend this wonderful session or today's event called the Y20 India 2023 Info Session for the selection of delegates to Y20 India 2023. Okay, maybe if you guys are kind, can you give any kind of reaction, clap, so therefore it feels like a little bit rame? Okay, thank you so much for the reaction, everyone. And yeah, thank you once again for attending today's session. And let me introduce myself. My name is Nicole, and I will be your MC for today's event. And also, I would like to remind to each one of you to turn on your cam and please stay muted unless you are told to speak. Also, because we are going to have a remarkable speakers, please put attention on the presentation. So therefore, later we are going to open the floor for questions. And without further ado, let's just start this event. And I would like to invite Mr. Khalid Sijaria as the Y20 India representative to give a presentation for the Y20 India 2023. To Mr. Khalid, time and place are yours.
Thanks, Nicole, for having me here. I'm really glad. I've been made the admin, I believe, but yeah. So welcome, everybody. Myself, Khalid Sijaria. I'm the representative of Y20 India, and I also happen to get the opportunity to be the representative of India to Y20 Indonesia. And let me tell you guys, the kind of arrangement that Indonesian youth diplomacy did, right from all the online discussions that happened, the pre-summits and summits, that is something that has created a lot of pressure on us to basically take forward the legacy and not falter anywhere, because they didn't. And honestly, the kind of environment that they created for all the delegates, since we all are connected now, and the community that has been built because of that, is something that all of you would really, really cherish. And I'm actually benefiting a lot from that. Even now and in future, I'm definitely sure that the community that the Y20 builds would help you all. So I'll, without much ado, I'll just move to the presentation so that you can also see it. Just a moment. Yeah. Sure. Hold on a moment. Present. Can you guys see the screen? Is it audible? Can somebody let me know?
Yes.
It's
audible,
clear.
All good?
It's
Perfect.
clear.
Yeah. Also, sorry. So the presentation might be a slightly shoddily made because just yesterday, we had our curtain raiser in which we officially launched our website, our themes, our logo, and a lot of different things. So you can also check it out later. I'll just move forward to our introduction. So this is our logo, Y20 India. In fact, earlier we were planning to have certain different kinds of logo. We held a logo competition, but in the end, what we came to a conclusion is that we need to follow the Indonesian style. So we just changed the Y to our G20, and that is here. Now, India would, for the very first time, be hosting Y20. And what is very, very significant about it is that this time around, the entire Troika is composed of developing countries. So now some of you might be wondering what exactly is the Troika. So when you talk about G20, it runs on a model where the three countries take lead in terms of deciding the agenda. It's the previous presidency, the current presidency, and the next presidency. So there's a form of continuity in whatever we are trying to propose and however things go forward. Just a moment, I'll adjust my screen so that I can know. Am I looking? Yeah, perfect. Great. Yeah, so there's a form of continuity in how the G20 works, and this is very much well reflected. Now, the most important point about India's presidency is with India's presidency, we have three developing countries taking lead one after the other. So Brazil set things in motion. India now takes 4, and the next country, Indonesia take the 4. We get the presidency now, and the next country, Brazil, they're also a developing country. And in fact, even after that, South Africa is also a developing country. So we get a complete troika of developing countries where we have a scope of raising the voice of the global South, of the countries that are basically lagging. And the issues that might not have been addressed till now would get chance to be. In fact, for example, when you talk about, say, climate financing or a lot of different issues, we might not have been able to raise it earlier, or would not have got significant amount of addressal from the developed countries gathering. All of these things can now be done because we get a continuity to continuously raise it one after the other. And that is why India's Y20 presidency gets a lot of significance. And also because you're first time hosting it, and India has one of the world's largest youthful population, which is in fact more than the population of most of the G20 countries entirely. So a lot of developed countries have a lot of, a significantly smaller population, as you all know about. And I'd be quickly wrapping up to the profiles because I'd like to have more time for the questions, right? Yeah, we'll have the next slide, please. So now these are the themes. So a lot of you might be wondering, in fact, the themes were also available on the poster that IYD released because we provided them slightly beforehand, considering that you would have to run the enrollment process, and a lot of you would have filled the form or something of that sort based on the themes itself. So I just slightly elaborate why the themes were chosen, what is the significance behind the same. So the first theme in front of us is apologies, future of work, industry 4.0, innovation, and 21st century skills. So this is a theme which is very, very pertinent, in which we'd be covering all the new forms of employment that are coming to fore. I mean, as we all are aware, as the world is moving forward, new and disruptive technologies are coming into the system. Automation is taking place. A lot of existing jobs that are there, they're going out of the system. New kinds of jobs are coming into place. Innovation and entrepreneurship is now the key buzzword, which is now gradually even moving to the developing world. I mean, India is seeing a lot of advantage of the same. We have this movement called Atmanirbhar Bharat, or self-dependent Bharat, where we are pushing for entrepreneurship. And this is something that we want that the world should discuss. And when we are discussing it, what we also realize that there are a lot of problems or loopholes in which we need solutions, or we need that the decision makers or the heads of states take certain decisions or make things more accessible or take certain stances. And a lot of these things that the youth face are not able, I mean, they do not reach the decision makers. So Y20 might be one mode by which we discuss this change that is happening in the job market in a very holistic manner and put forth our demands and requests. Second is shared future. Is there some issue? Okay, cool. Yeah. So second thing is shared future, youth in democracy and governance. Also, please stop me if at any point of time I go slightly fast, because I'm trying to correct that habit, but I generally go in that manner because for me, it's more like a revision. But do let me know if I'm going fast and it's difficult to comprehend. Yeah. So the second topic is shared future, youth and democracy and governance. Now, what is another visible trend is as a lot of developed countries are getting slightly older, even our countries, so there's a trend of declining democratic participation. People feel, I mean, for example, youth, they do not feel interested in politics at all. They feel that there's some kind of, mad place or some kind of a bad place where there is no space for youth or good people. And in fact, this misconception is leading to youth going away from politics or from democratic processes or giving their suggestions on legislations, even when they are directly concerning them. And this is one of the major issues that need to be sought. And since Indonesia is a democracy, India is a democracy, we both have chances to think into this process and carefully and holistically understand what is the direction that we want to give. What kind of participation are we actually looking at? And to push forth innovative ways in which we can increase youth participation in democracy and governance processes. Because only and only we contribute to the governance, to how the laws are made, to how the legislations are made, how the well-being process is being done, we won't be able to understand, we won't be able to make a meaningful contribution. And if we are not contributing, then there is no sense cribbing because we're not taking a step. So we want that it should be actionable and youth should take a stance. Third theme, peace building and reconciliation, ushering in an era of no war. And this is something that, I guess, also had a lot of impact on Indonesia's presidency. While we were there, we were discussing a lot about what's happening in Russia, Ukraine, and a lot of other these kinds of conflicts and what would be their impact. And what also happened is because of this, for example, the food supply chains got affected or the energy supply chains got affected, due to which the world kind of suffered. So we want that the youth should now holistically discuss about peace building, about reconciliation, because Y20 is not just about youth thinking about themselves, but rather youth thinking about the entire system, about giving forth their understanding, their proposals, about seeing how the system should change and then proposing things. And that is why we thought that this theme, which has not been covered anywhere else, should be reflected here, about peace building and reconciliation, about how can we even ensure basic necessities in the times of war, uh, or most importantly, stop war at its base. How do we create sustainable measures so that war can be averted? Fourth would be health, well-being, and sports agenda for youth. So this has been made slightly broadened. Earlier, we were kind of discussing whether it should be health and well-being, or should we add sports, or how should things be? And now when we read this topic, one thing that is very clear, I mean, health is obviously significant in light of the COVID pandemic. How do we avoid future pandemics, or a lot of those issues, the health infrastructure, and how we see at that. So that's youth looking at the system. But what is also pertinent is youth looking at themselves and creating solutions. So a lot of issues are specific for youth. When we talk about, say, drug abuse or these kinds of problems, these things also need to be addressed. Or when we talk about mental well-being, mental health, which is not sufficiently addressed in our current existing systems. So we need methods, we need demands, we need to put it strongly in front of the global leaders, in front of the head of states, that we want these things to be addressed. We want that solutions come to it. And in fact, we look at measures within our own countries, what new things have been done, what innovative ideas have been implemented, or where our countries have been able to do some significant amount of good work, maybe some youth-led initiatives. And how do we push for them? Or how do we simply create an ecosystem where these things get into the front? And not just looking at health from a measure where of curative health, but also from preventive healthcare. As in, sports plays a very major role about our fitness. And in the fast lifestyle that we are getting into, that is getting neglected. And even when we look at current infrastructures, the systems that are made, the cities that are planned, a lot of times we do not find spaces for people for, say, sports or exercises or a lot of different other things, for awareness campaigns. And a lot of these things are missing. So we want that we holistically look at health, well-being, and sports, and how do we push for. And finally, and one of the most important topics that is being continuously repeated under different headings is climate change and disaster risk reduction, making sustainability a way of life. Now, I guess last time we, in Y20 Indonesia, we had the theme sustainable and livable planet. So it's very related to that. But what we have also tried to add is disaster risk reduction, because now as climate change is happening, disaster change is also, I mean, disasters are also getting more. I mean, Indonesia is just changing their capital because of the slow flooding, as far as I've understood. And a lot of other countries are facing the same. And what we now need is systems to stop these kinds of things at the base. Just a minute. Yeah. So what we need as of now is systems to stop them, and obviously climate change. And most importantly, what is present in the theme is life. Now, life is not to be interpreted just as life, but lifestyle for environment, one of the moments that we started, because there's a lot of saying about, say, per capita emissions and all of those things. But what is also important is per capita consumption, or per capita emissions in terms of consumption. So when we look at, say, a lot of developed countries, and now what I'm saying right now is India to Indonesia, not as the host or something, but something that we need to realize as countries, that per capita emission is a major aspect, or per capita consumption in fast fashion, or say multiple flights. When you look at, say, the carbon emission per capita for, say, United States or any of the developed countries, I just don't want to take names for obvious reasons, you realize that they're much, much more. An average citizen is basically consuming, say, steel in kgs, that is multiple times what an average person is using in India or Indonesia. Or say, for example, the carbon emissions that are per capita, or the amount of food, or say the amount of clothes that are consumed, or anything that is consumed is much, much, much more. And a lot of times that is not required. But in terms of how the societies are structured, or how the economies are, things are cheaper or expensive, or how it is being sourced, or where it is being produced, a lot of countries, the lifestyle is a major problem, and that is the one that is harming environment. So we need to make that also there. So while we're looking at two-pronged approaches, one obviously looking at how the governments have to take decisions in terms of climate change, their emissions, their production, their energy supplies, but also about how we as youth take initiative and bring forth change, because that is also one of the major impetus. I mean, in a free market system or even mixed market economies, if there is demand, there would obviously be supply. So how do we look into that in a holistic perspective? So these are the themes, and you don't have to actually follow whatever I said. I mean, the basic ideas. So the very purpose of Y20 is you interpret those themes in your own understanding. What is it that you feel? And that is what we also did. So we had gotten a white paper, I'd say, and the white paper and communique would look, I mean, extremely different from each other, because this white paper or things that we made are from one perspective. We tried to incorporate everything, but then you come up with your fresh perspectives. These themes are these lines are over there. How you interpret it, what you demand out of it, what's something you think out of it is all up to you. There's no restriction to that. So you can broaden your horizons, imaginations, how you interpret those themes, what you understand from it. It can come from your own lived experiences or how your country is seeing it. And then we can look into that. Finally, I just briefly talk about the timeline, which we had shared Y20 Indonesia earlier. So now the inception meeting would be on 6th to 8th of February in Guwahati, Assam, India. That's in northeast of India, a very beautiful city where we'd be releasing the white paper as well, which would have a brief description of the issues, how we see it, how we basically want to give, I mean, a kind of draft, which obviously is up to you to follow or not. And that is how I, as a delegate, would like to see it. I mean, the delegate should have the maximum amount of freeway. Then we'd have 5 pre-summits. And this is something that I guess Indonesia started. None of the Y20s did prior to that. And we just want to take that legacy forward. So 1 pre-summit for each of the themes. So that would be March, April, May, June, and July. The dates of those would be provided to you soon, where the respective leaders in these domains or topics would be coming around. These are geographically distributed throughout India, so you'd be able to explore. And finally, we'd be having the main summit from 16th to 20th of August in Varanasi, Uttar Pradesh, India. This is also a very great city on the riverside of Ganga. I mean, if you would have heard of River Ganga, which is a holy river in India. So on the riverside, you get a lot of great stuff happening. But these are not just the programs that are provided over here. There's a lot that is added to it, obviously, in terms of culture, in terms of holistic festivals, the performances that we provide to you, the tour that we arrange even post those summits. So arranging it for you to visit the local landscape or the nearby areas, because I mean, India, as you know, has a lot of rich heritage or even natural, a lot of different kind of places to visit, whether it's the nature parks or wildlife sanctuaries and a lot of different things, the beaches. So there's a lot, I mean, whole range of experience that is waiting for you all. If you indeed end up getting selected by Indonesian Youth Diplomacy, so I guess that's up to them to select. But there's a lot of great experience that is waiting for you all. And finally, I talk about the logistics. The process of deliberation and negotiation. So what we'd be similarly following the Indonesian model. You come up with your ideas, you basically draft them on each of the themes. We give you the word limit, you submit them. Then we, as the organizers, the track sharing team, they would divide those. They would kind of arrange all your suggestions into various subheadings as to how they think they best fit. Then you think over it, you discuss whether these grouped headings are right or not, you want to change them or anything. Then you take leads in various groups. So there'd be working groups under each of the themes. You decide whether the working group's nomenclature is right or not. Then you take leadership in various working groups. You can be the chair, vice chair, or whatever in various working groups. You contribute, you deliberate, you cut down, all the passage that is there, you negotiate amongst each other. And that is one of the most fun part, where you interact with all the other delegates. You understand what are their sensibilities, what words or what terminologies or what nomenclatures matter to them. What is it that they want included? What is it that you might feel offended with, or they might feel offended with and might not carry any significance to you? So you understand where each country is coming from. And that is something that you would actually love, and also form meaningful bonds with the youth leaders of other countries. And then finally, all of this comes in the form of draft communique. In the main summit, we formalize it and sign the document. And there, voila, we have our Y20 communique. Now, the final outcome would exactly be a Y20 communique, which basically put forth and summarizes all the demands, conclusions, and everything that's there. It goes to the Sherpa track. So as you know, the Engage Y20 is an engagement group, which is part of the Sherpa track. So then it goes to the Sherpa. The Sherpa kinds of leads it and brings it forth to the leaders' declaration. And I mean, if there are points which are worthy or the leaders feel that they're appropriate, which we have to actually lobby for, it goes over there. And the final part is that is post-summit communique dissemination. So our work doesn't end when the communique is there. Now, we as delegates have to take it different leaders or concerned parties. So for example, you might have a suggestion that's for the local body in your country. So now it's up to you to then disseminate the communique to the rural local body or the urban local body or the state government or the national government, to different ministries, and say, okay, this is what the Y20 demands, and we want it to be there. Or host local events in different universities, colleges, and I guess under your presidency, you have stupendously did what was part of the Y20 Indonesia communique and taking all of that forward. And now there might be a question as to logistics. What are we providing? What you would have to arrange? I mean, I guess Indonesian youth diplomacy would help you with most of the things that are needed, but I'll still just briefly tell you. So for logistics, there'd be flights and accommodation you'd have to arrange yourself. We would pay for all other internal expenses, but you don't have to worry about getting the accommodation booked. So we have blocked rooms in all the top hotels in the host cities. We'd be providing you recommendations, and that you can book. So there won't be any hassle in that. But once you are in India, we take care of everything. So your travel, your internal logistics, you're going to different places, whatever's part of the plan. If you want to explore post our summit dates, you want to go in India, visit all the local scene or areas, etc., then we'd provide you itinerary or help wherever possible from our ministries. They're all more than willing and eager to help you all. And I guess that'd be it. We can have the last slide. I forgot to insert ask question because this entire slide has been hastily made in last 15 minutes because yesterday we had our curtain raise, and I'm really, really sorry. So we're all completely occupied. So let this blank slide be a question asking round, but I can just stop sharing the screen as well.
Okay, thank you, Khalid, for your presentation. And as for the question and answer, we're going to have a separate session later. So yeah, thank you so much. And once again, thank you for the remarkable presentation. Right now, I'm very excited for the Y20 India Summit 2023 because it will be a very extravagant and elegant event. And yeah, I can see a lot of excited faces in here. So guys, be patient because this is not the end of the session. Later, we're going to have a presentation by another remarkable speaker, which we have right now in the room, Mr. Marshall Satria, as the Y20 Indonesia delegation for the digital and transformation track. So therefore, I'll give the place and times to yours to explain about IYD and the Indonesian delegation to Y20. Thank you. Time and place are yours.
Thank you very much, Nicole. And hi, everyone. Very excited to be here. Super excited to see so many of you interested in becoming Y20 delegates. I think very happy to see you again, Khalid. I'm very excited to see that Y20 India is really trying to continue the legacy of Y20 Indonesia. Maybe we'll start by sharing the screen. I believe there's a few slides available. So if the IYD team can help share the presentation screen, that would be helpful. If anyone. Okay, while we wait for the screen to be shared, I think I'll start by, there you go. I think I'll start by saying the delegate recruitment process is going to be very exciting. It's going to be very rigorous. I think what's very important is to just think about the past delegates that we have sent over the past 10 or so years now. So as many of you know, Indonesian youth diplomacy started as a group of essentially alumni of the Y20 who have been sent year on year since 2011 to 2013 to all the way until 2022. So it's a great group of delegates who continue to have strong passion, especially for the development of Indonesia and the representation of Indonesian youth. So if we can go to the next slide. So this is just a quick summary of what Indonesian Youth Diplomacy is. We're a nonprofit youth organization. We were established formally in 2013. And we really have a vision to promote international exposure of all youth, of Indonesian youth, and to drive inclusive empowerment as well. Well, we want Indonesian youth to be able to have influential voices at national stages, at international stages as well. And our main task in the past few years have always been to send Indonesian delegates to Youth 20 or Youth Summit 20, Youth 20 summits every year. So we have had many outstanding members until today. Some of the past delegate members have become members of the House of Representatives or of DPR. They're startup founders, young professionals, young politicians, and other strategic roles as well. We have local chapters. Indonesian Youth Diplomacy is, of course, headquartered in Jakarta, but we have local chapters in West Java, South Sumatra, West Papua, West Nusa Tenggara, and East Kalimantan. And so we are very keen to make sure that we can continue to help foster real international exposure of all Indonesian youth, because the Indonesian youth are now the majority of the Indonesian population, and we want to make sure that we continue to develop the talent so that Indonesia can truly shine both at the national and international stages. If we go to the next slide. I think Khalid explained the Y20 very well, but essentially just to remind everyone, the G20, what is the G20? The G20 is basically the group of 19 countries and the European Union who represent the largest economies of the world. Now, for any large economies, we need to make sure we, of course, work multilaterally to solve policies and problems that really transcend borders. And some of these issues really do so. And that's why it's important that we have this forum, such as the G20. The G20 does not really have a secretariat, as Khalid also explained. We have a troika and rotating presidency. And so the agenda and anything discussed and decided is really up to the presidency of each year. Within each of the G20s, we also have official engagement groups. This is a way for the G20s to listen to different interest groups within their countries and across countries, and the Y20 is one of them. So we as the Y20 represent the youth of our countries. This is very important. It differentiates us from the G20 because we're not representing our governments, we're representing the youth of our countries, which means that you get to really represent what we think as young people of Indonesia should be prioritizing and what our country, what our government should also be prioritizing. We are able to obviously build bridges, advocate for things that just transcend what usually governments and diplomats would negotiate between both of them. Of course, the final product of every Y20 summit is what we call the Y20 communique or the declaration. And that basically enshrines a set of principles which are tediously negotiated, as Khalid also described, and which we expect you as the Y20 delegates to take the lead on negotiating. So this is why we have such a rigorous process for selection. It is not easy. We need to make sure that you can properly understand the policies, you can properly understand the different issues being discussed, that you can advocate for them, that you can negotiate for them, that you can write about them. And then following that, of course, that you can also advocate for them to our government, because each of the Y20 summit delegations would report to the G20 Sherpas and continue that work to make sure that what we as youth recommended will go into the leaders' declaration. And following that, the work should not be over. We should continue to make sure that we advocate for these policies in our individual governments and societies and so on and so forth. So that is a little bit about the Y20. I think I'm sure many of you are very interested about the selection process and the other details. So for that, I think I'll hand it over to Sheila, who was our head delegate last year, and the floor is over to you.
All right, thanks so much, Marcel. Hi, everyone. Very excited to be here. My name is Sheila, and I'm the Indonesian delegate, one of the Indonesian delegates for Y20 Summit last year. I was gonna say, yeah, last year. This year's 2023 already. Happy New Year, everyone. And very excited to be sharing with you today our recruitment process for this year's Indonesian delegation to Y20 Indonesia 2023. Thanks so much, Khalid, for giving us the very holistic context of what Y20 is and how you guys could you potentially play a part in it. So I guess from personal perspective, being an Indonesian delegate to Y20 has been one of the most rewarding experiences I've ever had. Definitely highlighted my year last year. It's a very key, again, to highlight what Marcel mentioned before, that we are actually the official representation of the youth in our own country to this summit. So we are not, Y20 is not a simulation. Maybe a lot of you guys have been involved in things like Model United Nations or other type of activities. This is not a simulation. These are real summits that you would go into. There are real youths in your country, in Indonesia, that you have to represent, and you got to be able to hear their voices and champion those in the summit, right? So that said, I think we can go into more technical details into what will will be required of you if you want to be an Indonesian delegate to this year's Y20. As Khalid mentioned before, this year we have 5 different priority areas. We have 4 last year for Y20 Summit Indonesia, but we have one more this year, so we will have 5 delegates instead of 4 for this year. So future of work, Industry 4.0, innovation and 21st century skills. The second one will be shared future, youth in democracy and governance. Third one is peace building and reconciliation, ushering in an era of no war. The fourth one is health, well-being and sports, agenda for youth. And the last one will be climate change and disaster risk reduction, making secure living and great. Next slide, please. So I think most of you have seen our content on social media as well. We have posted this on our Instagram. Essentially for the eligibility criteria, perhaps you can already imagine that we will need people who can show like leadership capabilities, right? As I mentioned before, you will have the responsibility to represent the voice of the youth in Indonesia and champion those in summit, right? And to be able to negotiate with other youth delegates from other G20 member countries. So it's very key for us to have delegates that possess all these criteria. First of all, we welcome all people from all walks of life. So if you are currently a student, or you're a recent graduate, or you're a young professional, you're welcome to apply from any type of sectors, and then the age between 18 and 30. But this one will be subject to change from based on Y20 India requirements. So maybe perhaps later, Khalid, if you could kindly confirm regarding the age requirement, that will be very helpful. And then be fluent in English, speaking, writing, and reading, because you'll be negotiating in English, you'll be writing essays in English, so that will be very important. Also to have strong academic, professional, and volunteering experience and deep knowledge of the priority area, which will be assessed in your application forms, which we will discuss a bit later after this. And then have demonstrated their capacity in a leadership role, have a strong interest in foreign policy or global issues, understand global problems with a multicultural perspective, which is again very important because you'll be talking and negotiating with other youths from other G20 member countries, which who will not necessarily have the same perspective as you, which is actually beautiful, because that's the art of negotiation and diplomacy, how you guys will come and will have different voices, but how you can come together and agree on the final output, which is the Y20 communique, right? And then also to be able to attend and commit to the Y20 summit and online preparation, because it will be a journey, right? Because as Khalid mentioned before the summit itself in August of this year, there will be a series of pre-summits happening. The delegates are expected to be involved in those. And also, just a quick point on the undergraduate and graduate student aspect, that this year there will be at least one delegation spot allocated for undergraduate students. All right, next slide, please. So for the selection process, overall, there will be two stages of recruitment to find the Indonesian delegates to this year's Y20 Summit. So the first one would listed here. This will be your CV, motivation letter, essay of the topic of your choosing, as well as a short video sort of explaining your main sort of arguments in the essay that and then the second stage would consist of we call it an open discussion forum, or it's almost like a simulation of the negotiation that you'll be facing throughout the summits. So if I can go into a little bit more detail into the required documents for the first stage, CV, I think it's it's generic. You'll find a template in the application form that you can find in the web page, which we will discuss a bit later after this. And then motivation letter. Again, we have a few questions as prompts that you should answer in your motivation letter. And then essay, maximum 800 words, and this will be the topic will revolve around one of 5 priority areas. So among those 5 that we have mentioned before, please select one that you think you have most knowledge on and you have confidence on to write an essay about it and to argue of certain proposals or solutions that you think you will say about those, maximum 800 words. And then lastly, short video, 2 minutes, no editing, no clipping whatsoever, of you just speaking or talking about your main argument that you have in the essay. So next slide, please. So after you're done with all these documents, essentially you can just simply fill out a Google form doc that you can also find in the web page, and then just put in your contact details, upload your application form, which consists of the CV, the essay, and the motivation letter, and then also paste the link to your short video. So I should say that this short video should be uploaded to the cloud storage. So for example, Google Drive, and then you can just paste the link there. And then after you have all completed, you can submit the Google form by the deadline, which is January 14th, exactly a week from today. And then from there, the IYD committee will do the recruitment and select the top finalists to be invited to the second stage of the recruitment, which is the open discussion or the simulation, the negotiation simulation that I mentioned. So yeah, next slide, please. Yeah, so all of those info that I just mentioned to you, you can find in this link. So please feel free to learn more about it and make sure that you understand about all the requirements that we ask for, and then submit your application form by next week, January 14th. Yeah, so I think that's it from me. If you guys have any questions, please feel free. But again, very excited to see a lot of it. Hopefully, a lot of youth Indonesians applying to become Indonesian delegates to this year's Y20. We have a great group of alumni that have represented Indonesia throughout the years in Y20 summits, and we're looking forward to welcoming another group of young, talented Indonesian individuals this year. So yeah, thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you, Kak Marcella and Kak Marcel, for the wonderful presentation. And so now we're going to open for the question and answer session, and we're going to have approximately around 30 minutes. So everyone, prepare your questions. And yeah, with that being said, I'll open the floor for question and answer. So therefore, if you want to raise any kind of question, please do raise your hands, or maybe if you want to state it in the chat, I will be happy to read it. Okay. So yeah. Okay, so I think we have few questions. Okay, so I think Atika raised her hands. So to Miss Atika, perhaps could you unmute your mic and then state your question? Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm very sorry. Let me introduce myself first. My name is Atika, and I'm actually still 15, but I'm really excited about this program. So, like, I haven't been to some countries that are, connected with those type of stuff like Y20 or G20 stuff, or like even participated in some. So I've only started like last year or something. But I am very interested in that, and I just want to ask about like if once I reached 18 or so, can I join this? And will it still be up there? Like, I mean, is it still available for us in the next like 4 years or something? Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Atika, for the wonderful question. So now I'm going to give the panel room to speak. Maybe Khalid, do you want to answer the question?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm really surprised that you're 15 and yeah, they're talking about being the delegate. And in fact, that is the impact the presidency has. So it creates a lot of aspirational value to being a Y20 delegate. So I don't know if the same thing would have happened if the session would have been 2 years back before your presidency, but I'm sure this will continue to happen. Also, Atika, please don't worry. If the world survives, then we would have more G20 summits and more Y20 summits for years to come. So they're not going away anywhere in the next 3 or 4 years. You would get an opportunity for sure.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, thank you so much, Khalid. Maybe Kamarshila and Kamarcel, do you like to add upon that? Okay, that's it. Okay, thank you. And thank you, Atika, for the question. Okay, next we have another question from Khadija from the chat. Would IYD help to support the selected delegates' flight and accommodation costs? Maybe Kamarshila, do you like to take the honor to answer this question?
Oh, not to answer, only if I know what the answer actually is. You know what? I think this is something that we need to discuss first, but as much as possible, excuse me, we will support the Indonesian delegations with logistical resources like that. But yeah, I don't think I can give like the exact answer for now, but we will do our best to support our delegates.
Thank you, Kamarshila. Maybe Kamarshal, do you like to add upon that?
No, I think I'm exactly consistent with what Sheila said. In the past, over the past 10 years or so, whenever IYD sends delegations, obviously the delegations have the delegates have some degree of self-initiative that they can try to find resources to fly, but IYD will always support. I think going forward, we as an organization are committed to obviously fostering and supporting Indonesian youth. So I think that's something that we will be thinking about very seriously, and we'll try to do everything we can to support you. But having said that, this is important to say that we haven't promised anything, but it's just important for us to let you know that obviously it's in our interest to help all the delegates who are selected to be able to do very well and to be there in person.
Yeah, and just to quickly add on Marcel's point, just an illustration for last year's Y20 Summit in Indonesia, IYD did give all support for us, the delegates, to for example, attend all the pre-summits in different cities and regions in Indonesia, as well as when we were doing the summit itself in Jakarta and Bandung, all accommodations and transportations, logistics were covered. So hopefully that's something that we can continue doing for this year's delegates.
Okay. Hopefully that answer your question, Khadija, and thank you so much, Kamarshila and Kamarcel, for that answer. Next, we have a question on the room chat. It's from Andramika Priastio, and he asks, "Hi, Andra here. Thanks for sharing. May I kindly check with you? Does an essay about economic empowerment fit into any of the 5 themes? If yes, which one? Thanks in advance." Another question, since the prompt for the essay only includes the 5 themes and general guideline to write a good essay, may I also check with you whether there's an expected structure of the essay? Example like intro, problem, solution, impact, and conclusion. Thank you. So there are 2 questions basically about the essay. Maybe Kamarcel, do you like to answer?
Sure, absolutely. Now, economic empowerment is quite a broad topic, right? So we can talk about economic empowerment in the sense of empowering the development of the economy, or we're talking about empowering people and making sure that we have economic empowerment of societies. So I'm not entirely sure what exactly you're referring to in terms of economic empowerment. However, what I would encourage you to do is find a passion or a topic that you're passionate about. In this particular question, I guess, so I see you've added fintech innovation, improved Gini coefficient. That's something that I think would fit well into future of work, industry 4.0, innovation and 21st century skills. Obviously, that's talking more about, how can we prepare the future of youth given the changing landscape of what work is like. And that's something that's very related to how we can, change labor policies, which is obviously something that would fall under some labor economics as well. And there's many ways to think about these issues. I think, as Khalid mentioned, it's up to you as delegations as well to interpret those themes and issues as you want, because at the end of the day, it's what you as youth want to make sure you prioritize or advocate for within these broader themes. So what I would encourage you to do is think about what you feel you're most passionate about writing about and write it. And in terms of essay, of course, the basics of a good essay is always important. Introduction, problem, solution, impact, conclusion, sure. But don't be rigid in the sense that it has to be just a certain structure that will get you the best evaluation of that essay. I think what we're looking for when we're reading the essay is, one, you have a very good and deep understanding of the issue. And two, you are able to convincingly argue and negotiate a point, an argument, a policy, and eloquently do so in writing. So I think that's what we're looking for when we're evaluating essays. It's not just simply a regurgitation of the issue. That we can look at Wikipedia, that we can look at Google. There's no needs for that. It's what you as a youth want to sort of advocate for in terms of policy in the context of a deep understanding of the issue, and to do so in a structured manner and in a written form. Maybe I'll pause there and see if Sheila or Khalid, you have anything else to add.
Yeah, no, I think that's perfect. Actually, that's well, the reason why we didn't give a structured sort of outline that you have to follow is that's part of, to argue your points, statement, and kind of solution that you propose in a succinct and clear way, right? So I think really the key point is what Marcel mentioned before, and how you can make those points clear in your essay. So no, I mean, there's no like rigid structure that you need to follow, so long as you can make your point clear.
Okay, thank you so much, Kashila and Marcel. Maybe Khalid, do you like to add upon that?
No, I guess that, both of them have very sufficiently answered this.
Thank you so much. Okay, next I see a hand raised. So Akila, do you want to unmute and state your question?
Okay, thank you. Let me introduce myself. I'm Akila Fauzia. I'm actually still in high school. To be more precise, this year I'm transitioning to college, and I'm only 18 years and old to get 10th later. So that can I get this opportunity with my age being right at the minimum age of requirement? Thank you.
Okay, wow, another high schooler to go to college. Thank you so much, Akila, for the question. Maybe Kashila, do you like to answer that question?
I'm sorry, I didn't get that.
Maybe Akila asked about like her opportunity to join the Y20 delegation, right? Akila, perhaps do you want to clarify upon your question?
Okay, yes. Because my age is right at the minimum age of the requirement.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, we have that age requirement. So I think, if you're not if you're not within that bracket already, I think you can use the opportunity this year to maybe prepare yourself for next year. Because as I mentioned before, G20 happens every year, right? So we're definitely going to need Indonesian delegates every year to send to Y20 summits. And actually, while we're talking about this, maybe can you kindly confirm the age requirement for this year's summit?
Yeah, so there's still slight confusion. I mean, I haven't got any final answer from the team as to the upper limit. The lower limit obviously is 18. Hello, was I audible? I said the
Yeah.
lower limit is
Yes.
18.
Yeah, the lower age limit is still 18. So Akila, be patient and yeah, keep learning. Or maybe Marcel, do you like to add upon that?
No, I think also just to keep in mind that, of course, we're sending you out to a different country. So from just legal perspectives, we need to make sure that you are an adult and that you can take care of yourself. So there's some logistical reasons behind that age limit. But another thing is, with experience and with some time, especially once you go through college and you explore some of these issues at more depth within your courses, that will also enrich your ability to really represent Indonesian youth as well. But we're committed to making sure that youth from 18, even as young as 18, can still represent Indonesia in the Y20.
Okay, thank you, Marcel.
I'd just like to add one thing. I mean, I was 18 when I started last year. So when I became the delegate.
Sure, Khalid.
Yeah, so I was saying that I was 18 when I became the delegate. So you guys can also aspire to be that. I mean, you won't face much of an issue, but you have to get selected. That's the thing.
Okay, thank you, Khalid, for the insight. So Akila, good luck to you. Thank you for the question. Hopefully that answers your question. Yeah, thank you. And next we have the chat. We have the question in the chat room. It's from Hisham Muhammad Zain. Hi, I'm Hisham. I want to make sure for the essay. Is it correct that essay just consists of them that we concern on all of the themes? Thanks, because the name of our form have write the themes code. So maybe this question is related upon the themes of the essay, because I think like there are a lot of questions related to that. So maybe Kamarsa and Kamarshila, would you like to confirm and clarify upon this question? Thank you.
Yeah, I think you're only supposed to write an essay for one theme. So that's very clear. And that's why we ask you to put the theme that you are committed to in your application form. So you're only committed to one theme.
Absolutely.
Okay, hopefully that answer your question, Hisham. And next we have Karisyoto. Oh yeah, sorry.
You might have missed a question as well, just on the chat, just before that.
Oh yeah, sorry, Marcel. Okay. Okay, we also have another question before we continue to Karisyoto from Jaslyn Gunawan. And yeah, wondering what IYD would be looking for in the short video. Would it be an elaboration of the essay or our experiences, or perhaps something more specific or holistic? So not to be too repetitive with the application. Thanks. It's basically a question about the short video. So maybe Marshila, would you like to share upon that?
Basically your essay. So if you look at the webpage, essentially we're saying that the content of the video should show should show the applicant essentially explaining the key arguments of their essay in a succinct manner. So whatever you put in that 800 words in your essay, please talk about it in that 2-minute video, because I think one of the key sort of qualities that we're looking for in delegates also is their public speaking skills, right? So we want to see how well you are when when you're talking, or you're proposing your solutions or policy recommendations.
Maybe Marcel, do you like to add?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what I just re-emphasized with Sheila. We wanted to make sure that no one had an advantage from being able to edit their videos, to cut, to make something fancy. We're not looking for fancy videos. We're looking for your speaking ability. So that's very, very important. 2 minutes, unedited, no cutting, just argue the essay in an eloquent manner.
Okay, well noted. Thank you, Marcel and Marcella. Hopefully that answer your question. And next, we're going to move on upon Karisyoto question. So I hope I pronounce your name right. So therefore, I open the floor for you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Introduce, my name is Karis. Pleasure to meet all of you, Mr. Marcel, Miss Sheila. I just want to make sure for the essay. So, if I'm not mistaken, we have to write it from, we have to represent the youth voice, not the government voice. Am I correct? Yeah, because I'm afraid uh, what I'm gonna write in my essay, it's from the government perspective, not the youth perspective. So I just want to make sure. I just want to make sure that for the essay, in order I can write my essay correctly. Thank you.
Maybe Marcel?
Sure. I think this is the beauty about negotiations and opinions. You are entitled to your opinion, of course, and we're in a democracy. So if your opinion is one that aligns with government policy, that's great, that's fine. But you won't be penalized if you disagree with a certain policy that we already have in place as well. It's a democracy. This is what leads to a robust and strong and good democracy as well. So the most important thing is it's your opinion. We will not be reading something and saying this is the wrong opinion. There is no such thing. It's your opinion, but it's how you argue it as well. If you just say your opinion without arguing the reasons behind it, the implications on the issues and why certain policies are not effective in addressing certain issues, then of course we would take that into consideration. But what's most important is how you argue that effectively. It's very important that you do so in a structured way, and it's not so much what you concluded, but how you've argued that and how you negotiated that particular policy in the context of that issue.
Maybe Marcella, do you like to add?
Yeah, no, I think that's perfect what Marcel just said. I mean, it's interesting because when I was a delegate, I was, working for the government as well. So actually, I'm going to be honest with you and say that, some of the key arguments that I mentioned in my essay and later on I sort of championed during the summits and the negotiations were in line with government's policy. But because I personally believed in those policies. So again, so long as you personally believe it and you think that those are, the best solutions that you can offer and it's on the table, then go for it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, well noted. Maybe Khalid, do you like to add upon that answer as well?
Definitely. So the very purpose of engagement groups is non-governmental engagement. So when we look at the Sherpa track, it can be divided into two parts. One is the working group and one is the engagement group. So in the working group, the ministries, the bureaucrats and all those people meet and basically put forth their demands, suggestions and coordinate. And engagement group is for particularly non-governmental engagement. So if we try to incorporate government perspective, then that would create a problem for us exactly because that would be duplication. So we have to put our perspective, which can either be in support, against, or nuanced. I mean, anywhere in between with whatever policy is existing. But our perspective has to be youth perspective. And it should not have any implication whether it is what the government is following or not. Because the government already has a working group to raise their issues and discuss and coordinate. That is why, for example, there are a lot of topics on which we have a working group also and an engagement group also. So we should not have duplication. We should focus on having youth perspective, your perspective, as Marcel also very clearly pointed out. So you should put forth your perspective. There is no problem whether it is in support of the government policy, against the government policy, lying anywhere in between. You agree in bits and pieces and disagree in bits and pieces, but it has to be your own, written from your perspective, as far as I understand it. I mean, I guess the Indonesian youth diplomacy team would agree. I mean, they're fair to open to disagree as well, but that is what and how we see it. That in engagement group has to be a non-governmental engagement. Otherwise, there's no sense to it.
Okay, thank you, Khalid. Hopefully that answer your question, Karis.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for the wonderful question. And next, we're going to move on upon the questions from the room chat from Miss Christina Aprilia. So there are two questions. The first one is she is wondering whether you could tell her how long should she expect to commit on online and offline activities, because Khalid, you will explain that there are a lot of events. And next, whether Y20 India and IYD could offer support in the form of letter of request to permission from the employer. So maybe Khalid, could you take the honor to answer this question?
Yeah, sure. So online negotiations, what would happen is, one, it is up to you how quickly you formulate your initial proposals and suggestions. Post that, you would have to, once that is there, there might be 2 or 3 at max meetings in a month, that is on record sessions. But the off record sessions that you would have to do and negotiate is up to you as to how many sessions or working groups you decide to be part of. So for each sub-themes, when the submissions are there, the suggestions would be grouped. And then it would be up to you to join whatever number of working groups you want to join. And then you would be scheduling meetings as per your own convenience. Mostly what from my experience I can say is that people generally prefer to have them on the weekends rather than on the main days. And sometimes even on working days, maybe in the evening if the time matches. The other problem is to match the time is also a lot of confusion, because there are people from across the globe from different time zones. So sometimes there might be odd hours, maybe in the morning 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. that you have to just wake up and do this stuff, or maybe late in the night. So all these things do happen, but then that is the fun of it. So you're working with people who are working in different time zone. So for you, it might be 4 a.m. For them, it might be evening 5. Or sometimes you might be at a comfortable time at 6 in the evening, and the other person might be waking up at 2 in the night, or waking up till then to ensure that they're part of the discussion. So that rigorous process would obviously be there. Depending upon the same, you can be part of various meetings. Second, being part of the pre-summits in person is not compulsory, but highly recommended. The same format that Indonesia applied, that it's not necessary that you're part in person of each of the pre-summits. So if you're not able to pay and you feel that there would be some economic burden, you're not able to arrange, it is not necessary that you have to be there. But it is recommended because you would get a lot of exposure which you otherwise would not get. So that is how we see it in terms of different things, that it would be great if you be here. There's no, better thing than that. So approximately, if you say 2, 3, 4 days per month, that we'd have to be there. If you want to explore more, up to you, the online meetings and all. So more and all, you can do it. You don't have to leave any job or take it as a full-time thing. It's more like a part-time stuff where you can give time as much as you want. I mean, honestly speaking, there have been delegates as well last year, if I'd say, without again naming, who didn't show that much interest, who are not part of most of the meetings. They're part of the on-record sessions when they're supposed to be. They came to the main summit, they signed the document, put forth their perspective and suggestions, and that is it. So that didn't require much of a task. If you are committed and want to make the most out of it, then you can join all the working group meetings. Then you can volunteer to be part of the cross-cutting meetings. You can be a working group lead and sit with 2, 3 people and make the drafting and stuff, or even do a lot of communique dissemination sessions or consultation sessions within your own country with IYD. But then that is all up to you guys of how much involvement you want to make. So it's highly subjective.
Okay, thank you, Khalid. And to ask upon the question of, will Y20 India provide a letter for permission to the employer? Will Y20 support that as well?
I guess that would be difficult from our end, so I'd have to check with the team. Right, but I guess a letter from Indonesian Youth Diplomacy should be better because they are the ones selecting and assigning, right? So our communication is with them that we want the names, they give us the names. So they are the official delegates. The signifier or the certifier would, in my understanding, with be IYD, but that is also a preliminary understanding on how I see it at the face of it. So if there's any problem, I can also discuss with the team if that's a possibility to provide.
Okay, thank you, Khalid. So next, I believe we should moving on to the next question because we have less than 10 minutes. So here's the question from Miss Donella Talarima. She asks, so this month she will turn 31 on January 19th. Happy early birthday. Can she still take part on the selection? Maybe, Marcel, do you like to answer upon that? Thanks.
Thanks, Nicole. I think the one thing about this is we're not entirely sure about the maximum age yet. So that's something that we're waiting for indications for from Falit and the Y20 India team. I think one thing as reference point, Indonesia's maximum age was 30. So you do have to be 30 at the maximum at the time of the summit, which in this case would be August. So that is the reference point with which we are proceeding with and which we will go ahead with. But as soon as we have clarity from the Y20 India team regarding age requirements, we will make sure we update you. I'm sorry if that's not as clear, but that's as much as we can work with for now.
Okay, thank you, Marcel. Maybe Falit, do you like to add upon that as well?
Yeah, that is, I mean, an issue. Marcel is being forced to answer, but the problem is from our end, actually, in terms of non-clarification for the age limit. And I'm also really sorry. I've been pushing the team to get that thing in order. I'll just check with them once again to see if we can finally get an answer.
Thank you so much, Falit, and hopefully that answer your question. And next, moving on to the last question of this session, which is related to the essay again. What is the requirement on the reference list? Is it necessary to be included at the end of the essay? Maybe Marcel, do you like to clarify on this question from Miss Shirley?
Sure. I think with any essay, you should always refer or reference work that is not yours. That's always good practice. So if you have used significant amount of ideas and stuff from others, you can use any type of reference. I don't think we will be strict on whether you use Harvard referencing, MLA formats, Chicago style, APA, anything really, as long as you properly reference ideas that are not yours. At the same time, I think a lot of this essay is not really supposed to be informative about the issue. We're not asking you to write a white paper about the issue. We're asking you to answer the questions and argue for policies within the context of that issue. So that's very important for me to emphasize. So we're not expecting a book about the issue or an essay, an informative essay about the issue. It's supposed to be an argumentative essay that really explains your policy, your ideas in the context of that issue. So I don't see there to be a huge requirement or a necessity really for you to do a lot of references, but if and when required, of course, feel free to reference as needed and as properly. It's always good academic practice.
Okay, thank you, Marcel. Hopefully that answer your question, Shirley. And with that being said, that's the end of our question and answer session. If you guys still have any questions, please feel free to reach to the Indonesian Youth Diplomacy Instagram or our website for more information. And yeah, I hope to see all of the excited faces, prominent faces to Y20 India 2023. And before we close this session, let's turn on our cam. So because we're going to have a photo session to document this wonderful session. Okay, and later, Kak Farhan from IYD will help to take the picture.
Okay,
Then
okay.
everyone, turn on your cam, please.
Okay, we will wait until all the participants open the camera.
Okay, sure. Okay. Or maybe to those that cannot turn on your cam, you guys can give like reaction, heart, face, clap, thumbs up, anything. So we know that you guys are present in this room. Okay, I think that's it, Kak Farhan.
That's all?
So we can, yeah, that's all.
Okay,
You can comment.
should we start? Okay, okay. I'll take there's 2 windows, so I'll take one per on Windows. Okay, let's start. 1, 2, 3. Okay, wait a sec. Okay, next slide. 1, 2, 3. Okay, Nicole, all done. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Falit, Marcel, and Kamarshila, and thank you, IYD, for hosting this information session. And thanks to all of the participants. I hope that all of the informations give you a lot of insights, and I hope to see you guys at Y20 India 2023. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. You may allow to leave this room. Thank you. Have a wonderful holiday.
Thanks a lot for hosting me.
Thank you.